And because of that, I think, and we can talk about this a little bit later too, but I think that encompasses a lot of the hard work, like we're going to try to get ahead attitude here, which is still pretty vibrant. Right? Yeah. You can still do something here, and prove yourself.
Good morning and welcome to Chinook Podcast. We're gathered here again today, and today we have a special guest. We have MLA Nolan Dyck.
Good day, good day. Thanks for having me on here today.
Yeah, welcome here.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. So anyway, our system of podcasting usually begins with a book review. So we're going to ask our MLA to share his favorite book or a specific book recommendation.
Okay,
and then we'll each do that.
Sounds good. Yeah, one of the books that I've been currently reading, but also have learned significant amounts, is actually by one of our locals, Dennis Landis. So a Christian guy, but he wrote a book called Finish Well, and so it's broken down into various interviews of various people. Some of them he's met, and some of it's just research based. But he brings out just key principles, I think, of leadership, what it looks like to finish well and choosing character throughout that and what that looks like. So I think it's a very good book.
Awesome. That
I've really enjoyed. And he's a good writer. It's easy to read. It's simple, but also very profound aspects of it. So I'd highly recommend.
Good. I wasn't aware that Dennis was an author.
Yeah.
He's a lot of things.
I think he finished it a few months ago.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. So you can find
Excellent.
it. For a quick plug, you can find it on Amazon and all areas where you buy books.
Okay.
So
I've heard of him. I haven't talked to him. He sounds like the liberal arts man, especially now that he's writing books too.
There you go.
I guess he's a prior CEO of Prairie Coast.
Yeah, that's
John
right.
Deere, right? So he's got a great business head, super passionate man of God, and heavily involved in the community. So I have a lot of respect for him, and his book is very, very good.
Okay,
Good.
I'll have to buy it.
Excellent.
Yeah. Jamie, you're next.
Okay. I'm looking at a book called Why the End is Not Near. This is by Pastor Dwayne Garner. His Answers in an Hour series. It's really, really thin. It's thinner than my little finger by far. And in this book, he's going through and laying out a brief case for why we should expect the gospel to win the world. That's really what he's doing. So the book is called Why the End is Not Near, A Refutation of End Times Hysteria by Dwayne Garner. Athanasius Press put this out.
Oh, that's a small book too.
It's a small book.
It's an easy read.
Yeah, it's intended to get you through it in about an hour.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I've got a book of poetry by T.S. Eliot. Yeah, you would think that I would bring like my favorite political theology book onto the show since we got MLA Nolan on here. But no, I'm gonna promote a book of poetry by T.S. Eliot. I've got a book called Selected Poems. You know what? Anything by T.S. Eliot is really fun to read. He tends to be one of the more complex and complicated of the poets out there. So he's a bit harder to understand, but nevertheless, like his poetry is top-notch poetry. So I would encourage people to read T.S. Eliot. And anyway, this book in particular, I read with my wife when we first started dating in 2016. So if you want to woo a woman,
Yeah, there you go.
read T.S. Eliot with her.
That's funny.
Yes.
Very good.
Good.
Very good. So is this the copy that you wooed your wife with?
This is the copy that I wooed
Very
my
good.
wife with.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a very nice copy. So I'm trying to figure out how to promote this exact copy. It's the publisher is Faber and Faber. So and it's printed in England.
Okay.
Excellent.
So, anyway.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Great book. All right, well, let's get rolling on this interview.
Yeah. We'd like to know a bit about our MLA Nolan.
Sure.
So why don't you tell us where you're from and your some stuff about you as you're growing up and how you wound up where you are.
Yeah.
How about that?
Sure. That's fantastic. Let me kind of start a few years ago then. I grew up in southern Alberta, a small little town called Bow Island. It's in between Medicine Hat and Lethbridge. Claim to fame is Spitz factory started there. So it's now gone. Pepsi bought them out, but the Spitz that were originally created there. So had some friends there working, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there anymore. Grew up in a Christian home. My parents still are actively involved in the church. Decided how I got up to Grande Prairie. We'll skip ahead a few years. I decided to go to Bible school. So I came to Peace River Bible Institute, did a few years there. I was planning on one and stuck around for a couple. And so I just started falling in love with the area. I recognized there's incredible opportunities here. There's opportunities in southern Alberta, but there's more here. This is the land of opportunity. And I will keep saying that, whether it's forever and for always. And so I fell in love with what you can do. At my heart, I truly am, and I believe an entrepreneur. And so you can put that in different realms, right, as well. But at the very core, I recognize that this is a great space for that. It's a great place to start a business, a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to live. And so I ended up staying predominantly, first and foremost, around the things that I've enjoyed and been able to do here. So and then my journey into politics was kind of interesting. So multiple years ago, I got involved federally, just on our local electoral district association board. So our MP is Chris Workington, and got involved on this board. And I had nothing to do with politics outside of writing some letters to our local MLA when I was down in Bow Island. Right, my parents would make us write these letters, and I was like, my auntie worked for him, and he seemed terrifying and very powerful. His name was Lauren Taylor. He's a great guy. And so we would write him just encouraging notes as young. But so that was maybe the first step. But my real first step in choice was, how do I get involved? Had nothing to do really with politics before that, but started to really understand that there's a lot of value in engaging. And I never thought I would really be in politics full time. So did that, still am on that board. And then during when the wild rose in this PC parties after the NDP were in power, joined together. Tracy Allard realized that she was going to run, and so she was looking around for some help for her nomination campaign, and she called me up out of the blue. Never met her before, and just said, "Hey, one of my friends recommended you, helping out, and you have some background in tech. Would you help me build a website, do some social?" And I thought, I've never met you before. I don't know who you are, but sure. Came with good recommendations.
You were just primed for it.
Exactly. Awesome. So so she won the nomination. So we got her through, and then just over time, I just continued. I was Travis Taves so Tracy was here in the city in the donut. Travis Taves was in we're in the Timbit here. So Tracy had the Timbit. Travis Taves had the donut. And so I was on Travis Taves' board as well, and became president for his, they're called constituency association boards, on his constituency association for a few years. And then when Tracy decided that she wasn't going to run, my wife and I were thrown around. It doesn't come up that often, the opportunity to let an MLA doesn't run. And so originally I said no, and then the Lord was working. And so, when Tracy said that she also wasn't going to run, and not just Travis, then I was like, oh, maybe this is the opportunity. But in politics, it's a team game, and I don't think most people recognize how much of a team game it is. There's sacrifices for family.
Right.
I was chatting with my wife Sandra, and I just asked her, if you're not 100% in it, I'm not doing it. Or we can talk about this as a later date, maybe 50, 60, maybe never, right? Maybe I'm just supposed to support. And so she started praying about it. And then somebody we both greatly respect, who I hadn't talked to in multiple months, later that day, she just started praying, like, we need somebody we both deeply respect to call and say, hey, Nolan, I think you should run. Or put your name forward in the nomination, right? So you first of all have to win a nomination. So put in the nomination race and go from there. And so she started praying that. And then later that night, somebody called me who I hadn't talked to in months and said, Nolan, I think I wasn't going to call anybody, but the Lord prompted me to put this on the So I go back and I was like, Sandra, you would not believe who just called me here today. And I haven't talked to them in months. This is what they thought. What do you think? And she's like, oh crap. Like that's literally what I prayed like 12 hours ago is for something like this to happen. So, she was a little like, we recognized the challenge of it and the weight of the decision, especially, we got young kids, right? Like now they're, my youngest was, my oldest was 2. So there is commitment there on that side, but the Lord moved my wife's heart, and we put my name in for the nomination. And to win the nomination just means that you get to then represent the party in the election.
Right.
So it's actually, so we took, and it was fast. Got to get paperwork, sell memberships, get people on board. I just wanted, I was praying, I either want to win by a lot or lose by a lot, right? You don't want to be like, I could have made 2 more phone calls and
It's hard on my nerves.
exactly. So, I ended up winning, pretty handedly. So that was a blessing, and we'll see where it goes. Currently I'll put my name forward again. Got to go through a similar nomination race. But so every single time, got to do that in the UCP party. So we'll go forward and try again. But once again, there's the membership decides on who represents them as a party here in the area. So that's been my journey so far into politics.
So you must be in like mid-30s.
I'm almost 36.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
All right.
It depends. I'm either too young or too old to start
Right.
So before we get on to the next question, I'm more interested in kind of a cultural question.
Sure.
One thing I've been noticing lately, just because I came to Alberta 3 years ago, I've spent some time in Alberta over the last 15 years. One thing I've been noticing is that the Peace River country is a very distinct cultural unit from central or southern Alberta.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a different mentality here. Partially, I always put it down to that this area was actually in Alberta one of the last areas to be settled.
Yeah, it was.
Northern Alberta, right?
It's very young.
Very young. And so we have a different mentality based around that. And we both know people that were still born on dirt floors in homes, and they might not share that, but there's still people 60, 65 years old that were still born in essence a shack. And then have now expanded their lives and shifted that. But we have a very young, very, very distinct culture, I think, because of that. And so we're not very many generations in.
Yeah, there's certainly a culture, but it needs to form for several generations to really enculturate, and we just haven't had it. Several generations.
Yeah, and I think I hear your point. I think the culture we have would be one that it's still work hard.
Yeah.
Right. And because that's literally it's like great grandpa.
Yeah, it is. Like exactly.
They were the ones pulling trees out so they could go farming. And,
I can go out to the corner on the way out from Claremont. There's a little old Mennonite graveyard out there, and my wife's great grandma's in there. She was one of the pioneers.
Exactly.
Way back when.
Yeah. It's not very many generations ago, right? It's very, very current, very, very recent. So I think we still have that, a bit of that mentality because we are young.
Still feels like frontier in some ways.
Yeah. Still shapeable, which is good, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I think and because of that, I think, and we can talk about this a little bit later too, but I think that encompasses a lot of the hard work, like we're going to try to get ahead attitude here, which is still pretty vibrant. Right? Yeah. You can still do something here and prove yourself.
I call it a blue collar city.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go into the next question. What does a day in the Alberta Legislature look like?
Well, every day is different, but on a general day, it really depends. And this is the challenge. Some days, the role of the MLA during a session, when we're at the legislature, during when we're actually making the rule of law, there's multiple people that want to talk to us during those periods too as well. So oftentimes we'll be at breakfast meetings, 6:30, 7 a.m., and you're rolling either in meetings or prep before session starts. Session starts at 1:30 with question period, or a few things and then question period, and then debate. So it's either meetings, speech writing, preparation of for those meetings. There's lots of reports that you have to understand too as well for committee meetings, and those committee meetings would often be in the morning as well. So to make sure you're prepared for that, because you're making decisions. You're making fairly large decisions for either legislative suggestions or policy, and so you got to kind of have a grasp of a high level of what you're trying to move something towards. So that would generally be the morning, is kind of like either those meetings or preparation or policy meetings, and then afternoon is often debate, or there's often voting bells throughout the day, and so you have a couple minutes in order to get down to vote. So we have a couple teams on where some people are in the chamber ready to just pop up and speak if we need. And then we have some more people. Everybody's in the legislature in offices being able to work, and you have a couple minutes to get down to vote. But you have to physically be in the chamber in Alberta to vote. Not everywhere is federally. You can pull your phone out and push a button. But in here, you have to physically stand up to vote in your spot, which is kind of unique. We're a little old school in that way. Some other places have digital, so you press your button, yes, no, or abstained.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like Alberta's.
Yeah, so you physically have to be there and say, no, I'm going to stand up. So it's either a yes stand or a no stand.
And is that kind of purposeful that Alberta's kind of holding on to that older system?
I think we're so forward in so many ways, and I don't know if we're purposeful in it. It does make you show up to the job, and I think that I like that.
Yeah, that's really important in a day where people learn through COVID how to stay at home and not go to work. And that really, really does something to the work ethic that built our country. Absolutely. Right? And it's not good what it does. And so I can appreciate that. Yeah,
it does. And it does something for us as a team as well. Yeah. When you're all working together,
right?
And I see everybody that showed up to vote on our team, and you think, okay, we're purposeful in this. And it's not something that's just going to happen by mistake because somebody pulled their phone out at the right time, or somebody texted them and said, okay, it's time to vote. How am I voting? Oh, I'm going to vote this way. No. You purposely are standing there voting yes or no on something. So I think that also demands some intentionality from legislators to do so.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. So I guess, and then just carrying on, oftentimes there's also evening things that people go to as well. So oftentimes there'll be 2 to 5 different events that people want to come. People want to chat with us, right? And say, hey, they want to influence policy, which is appropriate. Hey, this is the problem we have, or okay, well maybe we can work on that. Because if we don't know, then you can't fix something,
right?
And so the role of MLA is often trying to fix things. They're not always broken, but it's just like, hey, this would make it slightly better because this law was made back 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. We need to modernize it. Okay, well, tell me what would work for you. So we can work on some of those things. Sometimes it's not legislation. Sometimes it's just policy that we need to go. And so it'd be, in essence, I'm going to generalize this, but it'd be legislation would be at the very top, very broad, regulation, and then policy underneath that.
Okay.
So sometimes people just need a policy change at a lower level in order to get what they accomplished. It's not always a legislative change where everybody's in the chamber.
Right.
We're debating this. Sometimes it's like, no, this already falls in. We just need a policy change on blank item.
Right.
So these meetings in the evenings. Well, I guess the first question is it mainly lobbyists or just any individual?
No, it's not mostly like sometimes there's a lobbyist involved, but it would be predominantly different organizations saying, hey, like I want to.
Okay.
You know, there's housing organizations, there's nonprofit organizations. Think of something, and they will say, hey, we want to get in front of the legislators, right? We want to get in front of government to maybe make a change, or say, hey, thank you for supporting us. Because sometimes you do support, and you're like, here's how we've progressed in that, and here's what we see the future as. Great, but I didn't know that before, so we can craft some things around that too as well. So those are often, so that'll be session goes till 6, try to grab a quick supper. And then if we get supper, and then you go over and try to go chat with people. Probably
so practice lots of fasting.
Oh man, there's so many days, one meal, maybe. So it's, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then my other question was, so those evening meetings, do you ever get like the different parties milling around talking with each other? Or is it mostly like, people targeting or talking to specific parties or specific people that they want to talk to? Or
It's some of both. It depends on what they're looking for, right? So sometimes it's just government MLAs that are invited. Sometimes it's everybody. It depends upon the organization of what they're trying to, who they want to talk to.
Okay.
Right? And so so it's usually specific on them, on who they're inviting, less on us, on who we're inviting. So if that makes sense.
Correct.
So in the legislature, there's lots of debate,
Yeah.
but is there lots of talking across the floor outside of the legislature? Like
Yeah, I think there's a decent amount. There's some back and forth. I think for me, I try to treat everybody with equal value. Not every idea is equal.
That's right, yeah.
But every person has equal value, and so there's something that I try to live through, and that's based around my faith in Jesus Christ in significant ways. So I think there's going to be some chatting back and forth on it, depending on even day to day. How long are we going to debate this item? Okay, we got another 3 speakers that want to speak to this. Okay, then we'll move on to the next thing. I think there's some like back and forth conversation, just so everyone's on the same page, and so that we can also, hey, they're maybe going to give us some progress on this today, maybe not. Okay, well then I'm speaking on my favorite bill tomorrow.
Right.
So we just need to, there's some conversations back and forth, I think, on that, on the political side of what's happening specifically in the chamber too as well, and how we move everything forward. Because it does take time. It does take time. So
you mentioned part of the things that you have to do. You kind of have to be ready to speak, right? So so you mentioned speech writing as something that you do in the morning in prep. Is that something you were expecting?
I thought there would be lots of speaking. Generally a speech for us, I try to hit 8 to 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I was expecting quite as much speech writing, and because you got to understand, if you're gonna write your speech, you got to understand the policy.
Yes,
you got to care about it.
Yeah.
And in order to do so, you got to be also not just care about it, but understand the context of what you're trying to change.
Yes.
So that's the challenge, and also be like, do what I'm going to say when it goes online. Is this what I want to say?
Yes.
Right. And which is substantive, right? To be frank, not a lot of people actually watch debates, but if you screw it up, people watch the debate.
That's right.
because then it gets clipped and put on Twitter and Facebook. And
Exactly. So there's a lot of value in that. But yeah, to craft it well is the goal.
Yeah,
right?
you really, like you said, you really do need to know what it is that you're defending in order to write about it.
And that's why we have a team, right? You try to understand all the policy that we're creating. That's part of the job. But then also other people are going to deeply care about certain policies. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I need to know about them, but I might not need to know. I might be like, you're the professional in this because you've helped craft it, or you were on the committee that helped shape this. It's appropriately you have precedence over speaking to that item too as well.
Right.
So because there's a lot of work that goes into a bill. It's not just you throw something on the table and hope it works. There is a huge amount of work that gets put into these things.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, what exactly is the process for putting forward a bill and then passing it in the legislature?
Yeah, so I'll often tell, this is a good question. I think this is really surprising to most people, is that it probably takes 6 months to a year and a half to develop a good quality bill. And not just because somebody doesn't want to put time in, but because there's every law still has to be legal across other bills.
Yes.
And
so if you're going to place this in here, you gotta remember to accommodate this.
That's right.
And this.
That's right.
And this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you're going to build a house out of 2x6s, you don't just throw a random 2x8 in and say, yeah, that's good.
Right.
It's not going to work, right? You're going to have a big wow in your wall, and people are gonna be like, what's going on here, right? So you gotta have uniformity. You can change, like same as building a house, you can change the house build, how it looks, but you got to make sure that then if you're going to change some of it, that you understand what you're changing in the house, and not just say, hey, I'm bringing in a sledgehammer and we're going to go to work today. That's not how it's done. So it's very, very minute, very, very detailed. But so it would start with an idea. So a minister says, hey, I found something that I think we need to change, or maybe Premier is bringing forward a bill on what she thinks the future of Alberta looks like. And then that would go through various other processes. Every single minister or premier would bring it through an internal committee on the government side, and they would discuss that. Okay, do we need changes here? Is it we love it? Do we dislike it? Does it need more work? If it goes through that first process, there'll be a quick stamp of approval on the general idea, and then the details would get started to work on. It would be, broad scale. We need this change in Alberta. Great. Okay, we all agree on it. Going to pass that through the committee. Then they would start working on the details along with and letting Premier's office know just of what's going on. And then after that, then it would go start getting developed into the very minute details to make sure that we can actually accomplish.
Right.
We're lawmakers, we can accomplish it. But also, what laws might we also need to change in order to make that legal? Is there anything contradictory so we're not having courts all of a sudden saying there's a headbutt?
You want to avoid legal challenges if you can.
Exactly. Legal challenges, not just being sued, but somebody doesn't know because it was unclear on what is going to happen.
Right.
Because we had a prior law in a different area that maybe it takes precedent, maybe it doesn't, maybe this one does.
Right.
So there's a lot of detail work that goes in on what that looks like, and then that would go to once that gets passed and goes through. It's called LRC. They would go through that. It would go through cabinet then. The main big ideas and all the general details. And then it goes to another detail committee called Legislative Review Committee, which then checks to make sure, does this actually match and make sense? Does the words on the page match the intent?
Right.
Because that's very important, right? I always think of it as reverse Bible study.
Okay.
Right? In the sense that when you're doing a Bible study, you're looking at the details and does this match up with the intention of what I believe the author was saying? Well, we're doing a very similar thing in legislation, except we wrote it.
You're doing eisegesis on the bill.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. So, that's a good way of putting it. I'll steal that. So we're trying to make sure that the intention of the words are exactly what the minister intended.
Right.
Then after that, then it would get it would be approved or sent back. Right. At any stage, it can be sent back. Hey, there's not enough work. You got to redo it. We don't like it. So you make it through all of this, which can take months already. Then it goes after it goes to LRC, a Legislative Review Committee. Goes to caucus, and caucus gives it its final stamp of approval before it would be able to hit the floor. So a bit of a big process, and each of those stages isn't a distinct amount of time. It could be very short, could be very long, based upon the depth. We've had some bills that are literally 2 sentences, right?
Yeah.
Changing a law about last bill was about some meat and fees about that if you got caught in essence selling meat that wasn't inspected. Okay, that's fine. So it was like 2 sentences. Other bills are like 200 pages long. Some of them have come in different booklets, book 1, book 2. Like it's so there can be substantive changes created legislatively. So and it's always dynamic on that regard. So a couple of lines is not going to be as big of a deal as something. Doesn't mean it's not as big a deal. It just means that might go quicker through the process,
right?
Than something that has 10,000. Right. 1,000 probably items.
Right. We undergo a similar process in our church relations because we meet for presbytery with a bunch of other pastors and such, and we're part of a larger federation of churches, and when it takes a long while to put something together that everybody's going to wind up agreeing on and saying, this is the way we're going to walk. That'll take years to do.
So currently we're crafting a statement on Paedo Communion. That's one of the eccentricities of our denomination. But I think it was put forward 2 years ago, and it will probably take another 3 years for it to actually become a statement of the CREC churches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it takes time. It takes time.
It takes a lot of editing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to be satisfied with the way it is portrayed, right, accurately to what you guys want.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's detailed and not easy work, but it's also fun. It can be super fun work at the same time on both sides, right? And both in church, crafting policy like that, and then also on the government side, it can be super fun work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Important. Important.
So there's an art to it, and I think there's a real mental and real mental discipline to being able to do these kinds of things well, which is really cool.
It is. Yeah. It does. You can get good at it. I think that's the encouragement to me myself is like, it takes time to get good at, but people can get good at it. They should, right? They should understand what's going on in church or in politics or your business. Those are all aspects of importance.
Yeah. And anybody aiming at politics, you have to work within the system. So you're not going to change laws in a day or in a week. It's going to take that long.
It's going to take time, right? But once again, then it's with intentionality, and I think that's the that's been the encouragement for me too as well. It's you're not just slinging mud, right? It's there's intentionality of building a house, building the province, giving us the opportunities. Continued opportunities in the future too as well in various industries to make sure that we are able to be competitive. Those are important aspects. We don't have the opportunity to do these things if we continue to shut down ideas. Alberta is built upon these things. Same with church. Different ideas come forward and you got to discuss them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you don't, shut them down, they're going to bite you later.
That's right. So there needs to be, you got to build the house.
Yeah.
Right? You got to build the house.
All right. Well, let's move on to more of a general vision kind of question.
Sure.
So what is your vision for the future of Grande Prairie in the context of Alberta, I guess in the context of the Peace River country?
Yeah, it's a very good question. The beauty of, I think, the Peace region is it's kind of what we mentioned before.
Yeah.
There's an aspect of it that's built in. And so in politics, it's not about control. It's about giving the opportunity to people so that they can create something of importance. And that's, I think, often that's a nuance, but it's also really important. I'm for business. I got into this partially because of small business and seeing the importance of that continuing and growing and giving opportunity. And that's what I continue to see. Grande Prairie, to continue to flourish and grow, we need to continue to encourage our young people. And you can argue we're young people, but I'm probably just on the upper cusp. We're probably on the upper cusp of that. To say, hey, there's something that you can do. It's worth pursuing, and we don't as government want to dictate what that is, because then you're superimposing, but giving opportunity for a young person, old person, whoever, to go and take hold of an idea that they want to pursue. That's the goal, and I know it seems super vague, but it's supposed to be, because it gives us young people that can then grab hold of something, look and say, I have hope that I can succeed. And I would argue that that's also a biblical principle too, that hard work can pay off, but you also have to grab hold of it to push forward and say, can I do this? And that's the partial role of government, is to make sure we lay the framework so that you're not overtaxed, but that there is hope and opportunity for you generally. We shouldn't be framing it as there's only energy, or there's only agriculture, or there's only tech.
Right.
There's an option for any of those. You can be a plumber. You can go into technology. You can go into data centers. You can go into be an operator in the energy industry. You can go build roads. But if there's no hope and there's no opportunities, then those things are not going to flourish. So going back to the vision very very quickly, giving opportunity to young people so they go and pursue something. That is the goal. And that is what this area is about. It's about small business. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about family. It's about growth. It's about bringing these ideas to life and encouraging one another, giving people opportunity. There's not an old boys club here in Grande Prairie. There's opportunity. You get a shot. Those are things that are super important here. There's not like that across always the rest of the country. And because we're young and we're dynamic, as a city and as an area, we have some of that hard work ethic. We have some of that mentality of like, you know what, we're just going to go pursue it and see what happens. Those are values, and those are, to me, some of those aspects on a government side that we need to continue to grab hold of, because that brings opportunity for everyone. Myself, you two, the church, business, people in working, and all these other areas, because then we have excitement in life and a pursuit of something.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've noticed about the Peace River country since I started pastoring about 3 years ago. There's a lot of young people here. Yep. There's a lot of young families here, and they're going to go to the places where at least the driven ones who want to take personal responsibility,
Yep.
are going to go to places like this because there's a lot less red tape than other parts of the country, right?
You betcha. You betcha.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would highly agree with that.
Yeah.
So you've put forward what you perceive the vision for politics, what it ought to be doing, and I appreciate that. That's good. That's certainly not what we see happen in, like, there's a lot of people with really strange ideas.
Yeah.
There's lots of that. So I suppose that you're wrestling with those kind of things regularly.
So exactly. So but what the strange ideas you talk about, like, we as Albertans still have freedom of speech,
Right.
So let the public decide. Let Albertans decide.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You have the total opportunity, total freedom to go and try to share an idea. It doesn't mean that it's going to succeed. It doesn't mean it's going to fail either.
Mm-hmm.
Same in business. You might be like, hey, I convinced a few people to buy my product. Great. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe millions. Maybe you're the next Amazon. We don't know. But in the same way, it's the same with an idea. You have opportunity to share it. You might have other people disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
You probably will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also part of free speech. But those are the aspects that I think that are really important. Now, saying that, it's not about terrorism. People are going to say, hey, what about terrorism? It's not. That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about an idea that we're going to debate and then say, hey, I think differently than you, or I agree with you. I love that. Mm-hmm. But those aspects of freedom are still things we have. So those on the grand scale, we also have to trust Albertans to be able to see a way forward of clarity, and also be able to give that. We in politics we often call it the Alberta advantage, but crafting something, being able to do something here, for you guys, be a pastor, lead worship, play music, whatever it is you like, you can do that. Mm-hmm. And so those are aspects that are really important, and that kind of form part of our identity too as well. And because not everywhere is like that. Right. Some people are like, other places in the world are like, no, I just want a life that is, somebody tells me what to do. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to have my weekend off. I'm going to go and not really do anything else. Well, that's fine. That's a choice you make. And that's part of freedom here in Alberta too as well. But if you're not choosing that, or you want to choose a different idea, that's also appropriate. But let's not, we can have both ideas at the same time.
Yeah.
So, but once again, you got to trust on a broad scale. You got to trust Albertans to be able to say, am I allowed? And the answer is yes. Yeah. To be able to say something, to be able to build something.
Yeah, that's good. We're a Christian church. We love the Lord. We want to honor Him in what we say and in what we do. Christ Jesus is Lord. That's one of the most basic Christian confessions there is. The Lordship of Jesus, he says of himself that all authority in heaven and on earth has been, past tense, has been given to me, he says. How would you characterize in your work, how would you say that statement, that Christ is Lord? How does that impact what you do? I know you've touched on this already, but I'm trying to get in a little deeper there.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great question. It's a great question, and one that you have to battle with on no matter if it's politics or it's business or you have to battle with this. And so one of the things that I've chosen, and I firmly believe in my soul, is that every single person has equal value, and that is not something that's culturally normal. I think I've learned,
and it's not universal.
And it's not universal. Yeah, exactly. But saying that, I feel like that's also part of something that we can continue to say. Jesus is Lord. I do believe that. But part of that too is if I truly believe that, even if I disagree with someone, I have people in my office disagreeing with me all the time. I will treat them with the utmost respect, utmost care, and utmost value. I might disagree with your idea, going back to the idea of, I might disagree with your ideas, right? But I will treat you with the utmost value as equal to me. And most people can't wrap their heads around that because it intrinsically, somebody has equal value. Doesn't matter their intelligence level, doesn't matter their job level, doesn't matter what they've so far been able to bring to earth. They have intrinsic equal value. Doesn't mean that they are able to necessarily offer the same things,
Right.
but it does mean that they have intrinsic value. So I think that's one of the main ways that as I've stepped into politics that I've had to wrestle with, because it's not easy to do that.
Yeah.
It's and politics are divisive, and so if somebody lets it can go sideways, and so you create division by saying, well, I'm just not going to listen. But that's not the goal. The goal is to say, I might disagree with the policy or the idea, but I still find you valuable.
So a recognition of the image of God in your neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. And to be frank, that's probably the most stark challenge for many people is to be like, no, I disagree with you. Okay, but you're on the other team. No, but you still represent something of value, and most people can't wrap their heads around that. Even Christians, many Christians can't wrap their heads around that because we're opposed. We're taught to oppose. Versus, no, I'm on this side. Even in church, you believe this denomination, I'm on this denomination. We seem to have differences. No. We believe in the same Lord and Savior. So we have some things that hold us together. And so I think that's and one of those is that value.
Yeah.
Born or made in the image of God, which is divisive in itself in a statement.
Yeah. God, what are you talking about, God?
Right.
Get God out of politics. Exactly. What are you talking about?
Exactly. So that's kind of how I frame it. And I think I've learned, it was a good, even just your comment about getting God out of politics. I think one of the things that I've learned is many people expect a maybe more European type stance, church and state. Well, the church and state are in the States. We're so different politically in Canada. Right. And in Europe, some countries, Germany, for instance, still pays part of their taxes to the church. And so they get, I think it's around 1% paid directly to the church. So when people say that there's church and state, and prior, just been learning a lot about Germany and Austria recently, just some of the context around socialism and communism. But originally they had kings there until quite recently. Germany had a king until 1918. Yeah. And so we're actually a longer democracy.
Yeah. Canada's an older country than Germany is.
Exactly. And so, but part of that, I've just realized they also had, the church had a vote on who became king. And I'm like, they don't have it shared. Like no individual, or a couple individuals are part of the team that's choosing the next king. So when they're talking historically and depending on the country, right, this is just one with many people in Canada have German heritage. They have this idea of church and state that actually these people choose. And it's like, no, public chooses. We have a democracy here that's old and pretty well in tune of what's happening. So I think of that and I'm like, we're not church and state and mixed in like that, where our tax dollars are going towards the church directly, legislatively. We don't have people choosing the next king because they're in the positions in the church, and then also some other people choose the next king. We don't have those things here. So it's the public that chooses. So I guess I think that there's, we can talk about church and state, but I think at the end of the day, we are a vastly different nation, vastly different choices. And I don't think there's that's people get to choose what they're involved in here. If you want to be involved in church, all for it. If you want to be involved in Rotary, all for it. Like, you get to choose here. And you get to choose where you put your money, and that's appropriate. So that's part of the choice of being a Albertan.
So when I think about church and state, people have a lot of different ideas on that. So separation of church and state.
Yeah.
You're sitting here as an MLA. I'm sitting here as a pastor.
Sure.
Separation of church and state is not an absolute division of church and state. It's just simply differentiating between the institution of the state and the institution of the church, and as differing authorities. Yeah.
And so people should be, like, if they want to be involved in church, as I am, I should be allowed to do it. I think that's a part of my freedom. Yeah. Right. If you want to be involved in, as I said, Rotary, go do it. I can go do that. That's also something. And so that those are different entities. So if we're going to say, oh, the church can't be involved, or somebody from one organization can't be involved in politics, or if you're involved in the church, you can't be involved in soccer league, that's ridiculous. Like you just because you're involved in one area, you can't be involved in another.
Yeah.
So I think people and Albertans are more dynamic than that. I think we have a very good opportunity to be involved in what we want, and that's also part of the freedom of being an Albertan. And so I think part of that is just the opportunity. Be involved in what you want.
I invited somebody, or I offered a broad invitation on the Grande Prairie Facebook page to church last week.
Yep.
And one of the comments that I remember getting back was that I was must be some kind of a heretic trying to get church and state together.
Yeah.
That was where people's mind was. And I think, oh goodness. Yeah. Well, dialogue is good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to talk.
Yeah. And then I guess should we move to the last question?
Yeah, we're running low on our
Oh, okay.
45 minute.
Okay.
Let me ask you a quick question then. What are things that you think that the churches can do to serve in this community? And I think we value your word of advice as a MLA.
I've thought a lot about this, and just it's very subjective to maybe this community, and maybe Northern Alberta. So Northern Alberta has something that we are known for, and that we're really cold. But part of being cold and part of the challenge of community here is that cold actually rips us apart. And,
Right.
you got to bundled up, right? And so in the summertime, we often do a little bit better as a community.
Yeah, you got to work if you're going to hang out with one another.
That's right. And I loathe talking about COVID, but it did something. It took us out of practice of those relationships in community. And so we've gotten a lot better at it. But I think that's also where the church can step in and bringing people together, because you already do, but bring the community, figure out ways of doing so, bringing this community together, and being able to say, hey, we care about you, we value you. We've talked about intrinsic value. We think that you have value, and we're gonna do it locally, because that's really important. And I think that's a broad scale. That's one of the challenges. I'll say Northern Alberta. Is that we are cold. Now, saying that's also the value. If somebody's in trouble, we're going to help you because I always go back to, because it's really cold.
Yeah.
There's if it's cold outside,
you're in danger.
You're in danger.
Yeah.
So we recognize that. And so there's something else like good, that's very good that comes out of the cold, is that we are willing to help our neighbor. But I think that's just that as a church, continuing to build that community, not just the internal community, but the neighborhood. Yeah. Right. Start with the neighborhood. And I think that there's a lot of value there, because I do think that people are looking for that, and we're just COVID challenged many things, and once again it's partially it's not fun to talk about, but it's an opportunity to re-engage and bring people back together in huge ways. So I think there's some opportunity there for any church in the area across Northern Alberta, probably in Canada, honestly, but. Locally for sure.
Yeah, the church is that's our mission, is we're here to serve, right?
Yeah. And we're here to do
like
so
Christ.
in the name of the Lord, in the name of the Lord Jesus. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. So and then I guess my other one is just continue to build families. I think that's the very cornerstone. So much of politics just comes down to the family. So
yes,
keep building into families, men, women, children, and showcasing a vision of what you guys want. And going back to the idea, some people are going to jump on board, some might not. That's up to you guys. So that's the joy of pastoring. That's the opportunity every organization, every church has, is to be able to influence and move somebody along. And so I think that's building the community around families is very important. Whether it's 3 families or 5,000, right? It doesn't matter. It's equally as important.
Yeah. I just saw the Charlie Kirk thing has just been happening. Yeah. I just saw a Charlie quote in which he said, one of the things he said was, one of my counsels to young men is go and find a girl and get married and have more kids than you can afford.
That's a good word of advice.
That's good counsel.
And in Grande Prairie, we've got the freedom to build small businesses to provide for that girl.
Yeah, that's
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, Nolan, it's been a delight to have you here
Thank you
around
for
our
having
table. We really appreciate you having a conversation with us here. We have enjoyed doing just conversations with people about different things that they're involved in, and so thank you very much for spending this time with us. It's been a delight.
you're very welcome. Thank you for having me on. Good questions, and
All right.
and really appreciate the time of you guys both. And my encouragement: just keep building the kingdom, building the community, and I look forward to seeing who else you guys get on next on this podcast.
All right.
right.
Well, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Yes. All right. We are the Chinook Podcast. It's our delight to be able to carry on conversations like this for your benefit. If you are in Grande Prairie and God is calling you and you need a place to attend, I want you to come and visit us at Christ Covenant Church here in Grande Prairie. We would be delighted to see you. We want to ask the Lord's blessing upon all of you, and may you have excellent days today.